Azvina kumira zvakanaka muri yeZimbabwe. Zimbabwean families stranded in Cape Town as cold front approaches. This is sad. This is sad news actually. I don't want to lie. This situation yasvika pa the extent here yekuti tinenge takungotaura. Haisisiriyo Joza yatakada kudhara. Haisisiriyo Muzanzi yainakidza, yairaramisa mhuri, yaibhadharwa maschool fees, yaitira kuti vanhu zvinhu zvinge zvitase zvichifamba, zvinhu zvekuti zvinenge zvichienda papositions. Hundreds of people waiting outside the Zimbabwean consulate in Cape Town faced a cold night on Saturday, while transport has been arranged for some. Hundreds of others, including women and children, may have to sleep outside as a cold front approaches. Cold and heavy rain are expected in Cape Town. On Saturday afternoon, suitcases and bags were being wrapped in cling film to protect them from the rain. The city of Cape Town announced in a statement on Saturday night that the people would be moved to the Home Affairs Repatriation Center in Epping on Sunday morning. City spokesperson Lutando Tailibongo referred questions about where the displaced people would be sheltered on Saturday night to the Zimbabwean consulate. The consulate could not be reached for comment. Some of those gathered at the consulate told Ground Up they were concerned about the 30 June deadline set by March, and March protests against illegal immigrants are planned across the country next week. We don't have the money to go home. We are struggling to catch the buses, said Zimbabweans in Cape Town. He said he had lived in South Africa for 5 years. He said it would be hard to find a job in Zimbabwe, but it's better to go home. We are going to accept the situation that we are in. Yeukai Simbi spoke to us sitting on the ground near a local park with a 2-year-old son. She said she had arrived on Friday from Robertson and spent the night outside. She will probably have to do the same on Saturday night. She has lived in South Africa for 4 years. One man who asked not to be named said he had been living in Mozambique, but I think it's wise for me to run away with my life and be safe. Referring to the 30 June deadline, he said, we don't know if the situation will escalate and get out of control. He added that it was unfair to blame immigrants for the lack of jobs because most of them worked informally, such as selling vegetables. Volunteer Edimad said they were trying to find tents or churches to accommodate the people. Sarah Ontonzen, a volunteer for Gift of the Givers, said the organization had been providing warm meals and other essential. She said the community had to come together to assist those in need. There were at least 800 people at the site on Saturday afternoon. She estimated. She said the consulate has been assisting with Ableton facilities and arranging transport. Gift of the Givers is accepting donations at the Gifts Center in Clarendon. There is a need for baby items, hygiene products, and non-perishable foods. This is the situation in Cape Town right now. Muri Zimbabwe zvina zvinakumira zvakanaka, like I said, kuti iko zvinezvi inongori bata vanhu hazvina kuvamirira zvakanaka. And ndiri kuona spokesperson to President Emerson Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe uyo anonzi Jawanda George Charamba ari kutaurawo kuti some unexamined truths. When you read through some articles, you don't get the sense that Zimbabweans left their country for greener pastures in South Africa at all. They merely relocated to another poverty. A character in the story, one Mosha who was in South Africa for 5 years, cannot raise money for bus fare back home. The myth of South Africa or elsewhere as lands of greener pastures must begin to be examined or interrogated. I know a relative who barely made it from Port Elizabeth. He couldn't proceed to his rural home and he had to be sponsored home as his funds had exhausted. This is the situation, and this is what George Charamba is saying. This is the way he chose to comment panya iyo tozed kuti vanhu vakawanda futi vanhu especially ve ZANU-PF they are not allowed to comment, especially pane nyaya dzakaita saidzo. But to be very honest with you guys, chinhu chimwe chiri kuzotibata ndechekudai so vanhu vese vapanze vazvisarenda vakati taungana tauya tiri pano chitibatsirai hatina kwekutangira. But the government handisi kuziva kuti why vasiri kubuditsawo mari kuti titi aiwaka regedzai tibatsire vana vedu vagare vamhanya. I don't know kuti zviri kunyatsofamba sei ipapapa. Why vasiri kuti panapa tiri kudawo kuti vanhu vatakurwe nemabhazi acho. Government haishaye mari yemabhazi. This is the honest truth. Haingamboshaye kunigina kusponsor. Ndiri kunzwa kuti kune certain individuals vatanga kuita se kubuditsawo tumari vachitaura kuti zvoni ningi ndaisa mari yangu ndini ningi ndaisawo mari kuti zvinge zvichinodai so. But I understand kuti vamwe vacho vari kuita in the sense of kuti vari kuda kuita zvepolitics. But I understand panguva yakaita seinei hatina nguva yekutarisa kuti ningi uri kukampena here, ningi uri kuita sei. But pendanga ndiri kutenderera ndiri mumastreets esocial media ndiri kusanganawo nemacommentator akawanda, the likes of ana Hope Ching'ono, the award winning journalist ane side rake, the way yaari kutaura ari kuzoni history has constantly shown that wherever there is a destabilization, roots and riots or looting in South Africa, it is poor South Africans who suffer the most. I sincerely hope this protest does not descend into violence and looting. The wealth and politically connected are usually insulated from the consequences. They have the means to protect themselves, relocate if necessary, and recover financially. They are assured it is the poor who lose their jobs, their businesses, and their livelihoods. The same applies to township tourism. Once visitors fear instability, they cancel their trips, and people who pay the price are not politicians or wealth business owners. They are ordinary township residents who earn a living as a tour guides, drivers, restaurant owners, craft sellers, and accommodation providers. The reality is that many undocumented immigrants and the overwhelming majority of documented African migrants live in these same townships communities. It is therefore unrealistic to expect tourists to feel comfortable visiting those areas if they believe there is a risk of violence or unrest. In the end, it is once again the poorest South Africans who hear the greatest cost. The mere prospect of the June 30 demonstrations has already damaged South Africa's international image. Even if nothing happens, it will take a time for confidence to return to where it was before. If the demonstrations descend into violence or looting, the damage will be far greater and will heighten concern among international visitors. If violence breaks out, some governments may upgrade and update their foreign travel advice, cautioning their citizens about travel to South Africa. That would deal another blow to the country's tourism industry and investor confidence. It resembles the violence and looting that followed Jacob Zuma's imprisonment. South Africa could spend years rebuilding its international reputation. Unfortunately, there are governments that would welcome such a development. Israel has reportedly pointed to xenophobic and Afrophobic violence in South Africa to undermine the country's moral standing international, particularly after South Africa instituted proceedings against Israel at the International Court of Justice. Widespread unrest could provide further ammunition to those seeking to discredit South Africa. Donald Trump and those in Washington who have promoted the false narrative of a white genocide in South Africa would also seize on screens of violence to reinforce their claims. If people are injured or killed, it will become a public relations disaster for South Africa and its critics exactly the images and headlines they have been waiting for. The tragedy is that the man driving this campaign is well known and he has never cared about South Africa's reputation. He cares only about his own political survival. The surroundings surrounding him are no different. They do not care about South Africa as a country or about the livelihoods of ordinary South Africans. The sole absence and opposition is fighting Cyril Ramaphosa and settling their internal ANC political battles, even if it comes to the expense of the country's economy, international standing, and social cohesion. That is a reckless price to ask an entire nation to pay for one man's political ambition. This is hope waching'ono, ende nyaya yake ari kuzongoenda achingonopoinda pane one guy ari kuda kutraya kunofaitana naSiril Ramaphosa. And who is that guy? He is blaming Jacob Zuma. Saka nyaya iyi pari kunetsa veduwe, ndo patasvika iko zvinezvi. Ndiri kunzwawo zvangu kuti vanhu vari kutaura kuti zvoni kune mwe aisa 1 million kuti vanhu vange vachitakurwa. So guys, I want to be very honest with you. 1 million kana ichinge yazokwanisa kusvika yakwanisa kureleaswa, because chatisingafarire ndechekuti unokutaura 1 million, the next thing unoona munhu akuti tiri kuda vanhu kutakura mamembers, because you know kune tuma group to vanhu vanozvita veZANU-PF. We don't want that. If you donate something for the Zimbabweans, chimbomira kuti tiri kuda vanhu vane card reZANU-PF, wakajoina ZANU-PF. Munhu akauya kuSouth Africa akauya kunotsvaga mari, anakuya kunotiswera achitiswa chirombe chamunoitisa vanhu kuswera vachitenderera vachiteera musangano. You should know that. So tikangonzwa izvozvo, ndikugara ndataura because I know these guys very well. Tikangonzwa izvozvo tichabva taikata nyaya iyo. That is the reason why we are not even celebrating that 1 million yet, because we know you very well guys, kuti muri vanhu vakadhakwa brain makadhomoka. So we don't want that. This is a serious situation. Saka inodawo kuti pange ichihandlewo mune zvakanaka, ichinge handlewo with care, ichihandlewo kuti vanhu vakwanise kunge vachibatsirikana. But ndati ndingopfara panapa pakati tichitaurawo nyaya yacho kuti zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka paCapetown, and vanhu vari kuCapetown wo tikuramba tichingovaisa munamato, vanhu vari kuDurban wo tikuramba tichingovaisa munamato, because nyaya yacho yanga iri kufambirwa nguva yese yapera. Today is 29 June and 30 June is around the corner. 30 June is tomorrow. Saka nhasi tati tigara tangotaura nenyaya dzacho tiona kuti dzichange dzichizofamba sei. Asi kana pachinge pazobudikira imwe nyaya muri yeZimbabwe, please, ende vanhu kune vari kumativi mana enyika, even if there is anything chiri kuitika kwauri ikoko, do not hesitate. Take a video, tell us ndiri kusadi kwakadai vakutomacha. Zvakakosha ukatiudza isusu tobva tagara taspreada nyaya yacho nguva ichiripo. So please guys, do not hesitate to get in touch with me uchindiudza kuti chii chiri kuitika kusadi kwauri ikoko. Tongwadzawo vanhu raise ma eyebrows. Vanhu vari even vari kusadi ikoko hamuzove saved panzvimbo 1. Zvinokwanisa kunge zvichibatsira vanhu vakawanda. Some people were saying kuti alright, izve so vanhu vari busy kuda kumacha murodhi vachida kukukanganisai. It's because you guys are not united. Dai makuti mambonyasogara pasi mobvunzana kuti vankana kuda kutirowa, but this is not the time for that. But chinguru kudiwa panguva ino, batanai. Since today is 29, make sure une number dzemwe muZimbabwean, call one another guys. Pindai mumagroups even ari munzvimbo dzemuri imomo. Taurai navo nevamwe venyu. Shamwari kuno kuvasvika, kuno kuvadai so munokwanisa kubatsirikana, nekuti vakakusvikira uri group 1 waenda, but mukawanawo kamukana kekuti pavada kuya muri group magroup, you will be untouchable. Ameno kana mchinge manzwisiso nyaya ndandikupfurana ndichingokuonesai pana pamuri yeZimbabwe ndozvinhu zviri kuitika. But zvamanje pakaipa zvinhu zvakachinja.